Okay, so Pi News episode 53, and for this episode I've got a tidier desk. You can see there's nothing here at the moment because I'm using my Pi 400, and the reason for that will become clear in a minute, so let's switch into the news. Okay, so first up, a couple of Facebook posts, and the first one is this Raspberry Pi Zero W, which is £122.29. It's not even a 02W. As you can see here, this is getting beyond ridiculous, delivery in April too, and that's on Amazon. So still on Facebook, Louis on Raspberry Pi and DIY Projects posted this. While the Pi 4 is in such short supply, the 400 is pretty readily available and for less than $100. For anyone who wants to do projects with it, the motherboard is essentially a Pi 4, but longer and less high. It would fit better into a thin enclosure than the 4 would. And it's good advice. So I've done a few videos on, well, I've done loads of videos on the Pi 400, and I did take it apart. Here we are. One of the great things about the Pi 400 as well is that it has this integrated heatsink, so you don't need to buy any extra cooling for it. You can overclock to, I think I did 2.3 gigahertz on the Pi 400, and it ran really well, and it's silent as well because there are no fans in it. But it also comes apart pretty easily as well, so if I skip through this, you can see there's like a thermal pad which attaches it to the CPU. And this is the board, and it is a really nice slim board. All of the connections are on one side as well. Yes, it is long, but it is very slim. So for some builds, it will be even better than a Pi 4. You've still got the GPIO pins, and yeah, I think it's a very impressive device. Now, this video is about me fixing my SD card slot because it stopped working. So if yours stops working, this video may help. But the other video, or one of the other videos I did on a Pi 400, was messing about with cooling. And I actually didn't get much better results using a fan and all sorts of things. So the heatsink that comes with it is excellent. You can see in this bit here, I put an active fan on top of it, and I just messed about with various things. So let's have a look whereabouts you can get them. So RPI locator doesn't have Pi 400s on, but it's probably understandable as maybe stock has been alright. And I've just, I've had a Pi 400 for a while. I had it on day one, and I do more videos on Pi 4. But they are pretty much the same machine, and almost everything that works on a Pi 4 works on a Pi 400. And look at this, on Amazon you can get it for $74.99 next day delivery. Obviously this is in the UK, but if we have a look at the Raspberry Pi official page and we scroll down to the Pi 400, you can find various different retailers, and obviously this will be regional, so wherever you are, this should work for you. And you can see here, UK computer keyboard only. Oh, in fact, look. So you can do all the different nationalities as well. So I'm going to say UK first of all. So we pick the first one, cool components, 11 in stock, and that's the first one I've clicked on. I'll put a link to the Amazon one in the description, but also just this link is just raspberrypi.com, and if you go to the buy section in your own country, it will show you up various different retailers that may have a Pi 400 in stock that you can buy right away. So please mention in the comments where you managed to get a Pi 400 from if you decide to buy one, and what country you're in and what retailer you're getting it from. Obviously, if you put anything with links, it tends to get deleted by YouTube, so just mention the name of the company or take off the start of the URL. I'm not quite sure what YouTube auto deletes, but it auto deletes a lot. Next up, I really like this one. This Raspberry Pi 100 hides a Raspberry Pi Zero inside an official keyboard for Spectrum emulation. Now, I'm a massive fan of the ZX Spectrum, and if we scroll down, so you can see it's the official black Raspberry Pi keyboard. And inside it, until I'd seen this article, I hadn't quite realised that there was a USB hub inside the official Raspberry Pi keyboard, which is pretty cool. It's obviously there's plenty of space in there for a Pi Zero. A Zero is all they could get at the time, I think, is what they said in here. That's why they've gone for Spectrum. But the 02W, if you have a look at some of my videos, you can run a lot on a 02W, so that will be an even more powerful device, but will still fit in this form factor. Now, I did some digging about the official Raspberry Pi keyboard, and I found a 3-year-old story. And this is actually not a Pi Zero, because they weren't out at this time. It's a Pi 3A, and you can see it fits very, very neatly in there. And again, you can see that separate board, which is the USB board, which is in there already. This is a USB hub, and there's the official keyboard. And if I go to the official Raspberry Pi site, just to show you it there you go. So we've got 3 USB 2 connections and a micro USB. And if we scroll down, it shows you how you connect your Pi to it. So we've got power going into the Pi, we've got the USB going out, and you can see they've got their mouse and a USB drive plugged in. Next up, funny one on Facebook, and it's funny when you read the comments. Has anyone seen anything like this on a Pi before? It seems to be rust, but the Pi hasn't been around moisture or even been used very much. And as we scroll down to the comments, stop putting heat sinks where they don't belong. So people are definitely up liking this comment by Greg Scott, and I think that's the general consensus. And yeah, it looks like that's probably what it is. Raspberry Pi Pico now, and Bill Sideris has put Linux, with a J, on a Raspberry Pi Pico, and this is pretty impressive. These are they $4 boards, and it's not proper Linux, but it is a Python-based version of Linux, and just super impressive to see it running on the Pi Pico. But one that impressed me even more was Raspberry Pi Pico receives playable Doom port, and to think that you can run Doom on a Pico. It's a shame that picture's not brighter so I can see into it more, but there is a video there, so I can probably get some close-ups. What does it look like? Let's play a tiny bit of it. Gosh, we've got sound as well. And that's running alright actually. How does that even work? That's crazy. So this is part of the setup. I won't play it, I'll just skip through. Yeah, can't see much more of the setup. So it originates from Chocolate Doom, a historically accurate source port of the game. With 2 megabytes of flash on the board, the 4 megabyte WAD file that comprises the original shareware Doom's levels is going to need to be significantly compressed. So there's a GitHub write-up of it as well. His compression technique is called WHD for where's half the data. Squashes the WAD file down by 57%. And re-encoding the audio as well. Output is VGA at 1280 by 1024, much better than I had back in the day. That is incredible. Must take a look at that later on. And I really like this one as well. So this tiny deck has a BlackBerry keyboard, and as you can see, it's running some sort of terminal on there. BlackBerry Classic keyboard. Yeah, definitely looks really cool. Is there any more pictures of it? So running various different things. So what is it? More project information on Hackster with decent battery life and input power management. 02W, so great performance. 4 times AA batteries. Yeah, all the information is here, so if you want to have a look through it and possibly build one yourself, it does look like a cool project. Next up, The Verge did a really long story. The future of computers is only $4 away, with Raspberry Pi CEO Eben Upton. And I basically have scanned through this. I've saved it on my phone because I use Instapaper on my phone. So if I have a time when I haven't got any internet, I've got something to read on my phone, and this looks like the sort of article I'd like to go through in those sorts of times. So I tried to pick on a few things that I haven't mentioned in Pi News before. And so one of them was the makeup of the staff. So how many people work at Raspberry Pi? The foundation is about 130-ish people at the moment. Raspberry Pi Limited, my bit, is about 80 people. Inside that 80, you have an engineering workforce between 40 and 50 people. And this bit stood out. Right, that is a lot of smart, expensive people for a 70-cent chip that is packaged in a $4 controller board. How does any of this make money? Creating the RP2040 probably cost like $5 million or something. The answer is you sell a lot of them. That's the answer with all Raspberry Pi products. They are murderously expensive to design, particularly the modern big Raspberry Pis that have radios on them. One thing we do is go and do radio conformance everywhere. Raspberry Pi is a legal conformant radio emitting product in Tanzania. We make every product everywhere, and that actually piles up a few $1,000s at a time. Just the radio conformance for a modern Raspberry Pi product is the best part of $500,000. And there's loads more. It is a big long write-up. So there's a new version of PiGlass, version 2, wearable Raspberry Pi heads-up display mini PC. And as you can see here, it looks very smart. And there's, what's that, Mario on there? Yep, very impressive. Now I covered Pockit a long time ago. This is a modular Raspberry Pi, and you can add on attachments and take them off and things, but now it's based on a Compute Module 4. And as I found recently, you can make things a lot neater, a lot smaller with a Compute Module 4. And if we have just a flick through the video, because these videos are really nicely done. Just play a little bit because they're very stylish. You can see everything's magnetic, just clips on, and everything is modular. It just looks so cool. And you can see there's even a screen attachment as well. But it's worth watching the video because these videos are very nicely done. And if you read the story about the Raspberry Pis on the International Space Station and saw these aluminium Pis that they use for some of their experiments, you can actually 3D print them out if you want to, and the files are all mentioned in this story. There'll be a link in the description to this story and all the other stories I've mentioned. Couple of updates now. So first one is Volks PC. So Volks PC is Linux inside of Android on a Raspberry Pi. It also works with several mobile phones as well. We made a new release based on Kang's latest release, i.e. Android 12L Lineage 19.1. The Debian Bullseye XFCE root files system, Volks PC, has also been updated with the latest Firefox 91.7. So if you're interested in Volks PC, have a look at that on their official page. And the last one, we've had a big update to Retropie. So Retropie 4.8 came out on Pi Day. So if we scroll down, there has been loads and loads of changes. So if we look here, changes since 4.7.1, on-screen keyboard, improved joystick support, RetroArch is updated, loads of the cores have been updated, emulation station has been updated. So I'll definitely be having a look at that. Even the interface has been spruced up a bit as well. So yeah, very impressive work by the Retropie team. Rather than update, I tend to just download the new system. I've found updating Retropie often does cause problems. So I generally keep my ROMs on a USB stick, but I've got other videos on Retropie setup if you're interested in doing that. Okay, so my Pi 400 has worked great during this episode of Pi News 53. And I'm using, just to show you what I'm using, a USB sound card, because there's no 3.5mm on the back of a Pi 400. So I use a USB to 3.5mm, only because when I capture video, I can't hear it if it's going into here through HDMI. So sometimes I'm talking over it and the video is still playing. So that's the reason I use 3.5mm. So you don't need that USB in normally. I'm using a Samsung bar for the operating system, which works great. I've got a Bluetooth mouse, so it uses one less USB. So I've still got a USB socket spare. I can use this on USB, but it also, compared to two separate Bluetooth devices, it's a really handy little mouse. It was super cheap on Amazon, but I really like it. Anyway, I hope all this helps. Thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.